Hello, welcome back to another episode on Sparking Change, a podcast for prevention. My name is Sia, and I'm here today with Sanvi from the podcast committee as well.
Hi, I'm Tessa.
Hi, I'm Caden. We're from Vernon Hills and we're members of VIP.
Which stands for Voices in Prevention.
At Stevenson, one of our campaigns for like why we stay substance free is what's your why? So I'm just gonna ask you guys what you guys believe your why is for staying substance free.
I think that our why is just like educating students on the negative effects of substance abuse and everything like that. Something that's interesting about our club is we kind of target the elementary and middle school students, which I think is really cool because by starting them off younger and educating them at younger ages, we tend to see like a better I guess, result when they get to high school and everything like that. So I think that's something that's really cool, just educating like the younger kids on the negative effects of drugs and alcohol and bullying and everything like that.
I'm just gonna start off with like a little bit of a broader question just by saying that like I know every school is unique in like what they do and like who they are, and Vernon Hills obviously is no different. So could you explain to our listeners what it's like to be overall part of like the Vernon Hills High School community?
As a student at Vernon Hills, it's always felt very kind of community based. Where like I can be friends with just about anyone and feel involved and feel kind of taken care of. And so at Vernon Hills, we strive to build that community and make everyone feel at home. And I think although VIP doesn't like those aren't our own, that's not like our main like side or our main like kind of goal. We definitely help to build community and build safety throughout our school.
How exactly does VIP advocate for a drug-free lifestyle?
Yeah, so I mentioned before how we kind of target like the middle school and elementary schools. So what we do is we visit almost all of the local schools and we talk to the kids about having a drug and alcohol-free lifestyle. And we do that through sketches. So we practice different sketches at our school and then we end up going to the schools and performing them. And it's really cool. I think it's a very interesting and fun way to kind of describe the different goals that we have as a club to the different students. And it's also an engaging way because I know if we just go to the school and present, a lot of students won't be very involved or engaged. So it's kind of a way to captivate the audience and have them really understand what our club is all about.
Okay, so how do students respond to your drug prevention activities?
So like Tessa just said, we use sketches at these schools. And we use them kind of as analogies and metaphors. And so we think that that really helps to, like Tessa said, engage the kids. And so that probably takes place for about 30 minutes. Then afterwards, we go into our smaller groups where our VH Give leaders from our school will lead kind of small conversations where the kids will debrief and we'll kind of talk about how like what they're feeling and why it's important to be drug free and no bullying. And so most times it's really easy to get the kids talking, and they kind of really understand the point that we're trying to make. Um, and so I think that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you guys for like, telling us about like the skits and stuff. I know a lot of schools like have something similar to that. Like for us at Stevenson, we also do that as a part of our Snowflake program. And I also think that it's a very effective thing. So it's really cool to see like a lot of people around the community do something similar as well. So overall, obviously these are the methods for like your outreach and how you're able to talk to these students. How do you think that like this really aligns with your goals? So like what exactly do you think your goals are as like students at VIP?
I think just well, obviously the big goal would be to get the number of students at our school and in the community that use drugs and alcohol to zero, but that's a little unrealistic. But I think just in general to continue decreasing that number throughout the years and just overall educating more and more students about the negative effects of drugs and alcohol. Another goal that I think would be pretty cool would be to be able to do sketches at even more schools, more elementary and middle schools, even if they're not in the direct Vernon Hills area. If we were able to travel a little bit outside Vernon Hills to do them, I think that'd be a really cool thing to do. Or even like reach out to other schools who don't have a VIP club yet and start one there, and then they can go to their local elementary, middle schools. I think that'd be really cool to just continue spreading the message. So I think those are some of our main goals as of now.
That's really cool, and I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, we're all working towards spreading that message of staying substance free, and I think that's very important, especially throughout like the youth age group and like adolescent, where obviously it's really harmful both physically, mentally, and also socially. So, what are some of like your outside events? I know on like your website, I believe there was, I don't know if it's just specific to VIP, but I saw that there was a lot of like substance use prevention activities there. So could you just elaborate on what some of those are and like what they look like?
Yeah, so at our school, we have like, there's many days throughout the months and I guess the school year, that are kind of dedicated to like being drug free. Recently, we just had what's called Yellow Ribbon Week, where each day is kind of highlighted to be like a certain type of like mental health day or drug awareness day. And so everyone kind of dresses up and kind of celebrates this understanding. And then also I think, and so once a month we'll also have what's called a Fun Friday, where we have open lunches and it's kind of, we try to build like the mental health and like stay healthy, like socially. And then for the drug preventions, sometimes we'll do like infographics or like info meetings throughout our school. And then we also attend outside school programs like Snowflake, Snowball, and then other like day trips and night trips.
And Snowball's really cool because we end up going to like a cabin and we kind of talk about what it's like to be a leader, and like how we can lead different groups and communities in our school to be bully free, but also like drug and alcohol free. So I think that's definitely a highlight event, besides Snowflake, obviously. Yeah, that's definitely a cool one. And then what Kaden was saying, just like we have like different meetings outside of school as well with different leaders, either in the community or even leaders that kind of travel all over the country. And we just again like talk about leadership, what it's like to be a leader, an effective leader in our school. And I think that's definitely translated into our club and our school as a whole. So
Thank you so much for sharing. So along with that, I just had some questions about like obviously you're hosting these events and trying to like get this community involvement. So what exactly does like the club look like and how many students are involved and how does the really behind the scenes process of all of this work?
So we have about 60, 70 kids in the club. To be a member in the club, you have to fill out an application form. You have to have a teacher letter of recommendation. And then you have to go through a series of interview processes. And so then the exec board will kind of like go through your interview and see, do we think you're a good fit for VIP? Outside of school, do you represent our values? Yes, no, and then that's basically how you get selected to be on VIP. And then
like the actual meetings,
yeah.
We kind of go over like different leadership activities, and we'll do a lot of like improvisation activities, which translate to when we visit the actual middle and elementary schools, because sometimes those staff members at those schools will reach out with different like specific problems, whether that's like a bullying issue or if the students are bad with substitute teachers, anything like that. And we're kind of thrown in at the end after all of our sketches, and we just improv a completely new sketch right then and there, to kind of show the students what's wrong with that. So we just practice the improv stuff, and then we'll practice our sketches. And yeah, the meetings are super fun, and just like engaging. We just practice what we're gonna perform basically.
And there's a training at the end of November
Yeah.
where we all get together and kind of learn basic theater skills and then develop some potential sketches for this upcoming year.
Yeah. And by no means are most of us in theater or performing arts. Like we're all
It's just like
yeah.
a big group of kids
People.
who wanna spread the message.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a curious question. So like on average, like how many students apply to be a part of VIP every year?
About 30 a year. We accept what, between 10 and 15-ish.
Most kids stick through it all 4 years because it's a really fun club to be a part of. So
How do you think that like all of these things that you mentioned, like whether it's the skits or like the snowball, snowflake, whatever you guys mentioned that you do with with the surrounding schools or within your school, how do you think that's really helped in overall reducing, like for example, the substance misuse or substance use stats, or has that effect not necessarily been seen yet, but is working towards getting that point?
yeah, so within the last year, we visited 11 schools. So we performed for over 800 students, and we get feedback after every single performance. And all of the schools reached out and said that the sketches were beneficial and that they had a very positive response from the students after we performed. And obviously, that they all want us back this year. We also every single year send out a survey through like all the students in our school. And the survey is anonymous, but it does ask like, do you participate in drug and alcohol use, or have you ever been bullied, everything like that. And every year we do see like a decrease in the number of students who submit that form. So that's also a good benefit to our club. I think we've seen a very positive result.
Is there anything else that you'd love to share about like your student experience, statistics, anything else related to VIP?
Statistically, just going, I mean, for years, I think we ended it about 6 years ago, but prior to that, we, for about 15 years, ran what's called the social norms campaign. And I think a lot of schools did that around here. And it consistently showed about 75, maybe 72 to 76% of students did not use drugs and alcohol. And we had campaigns where we would talk about the legitimacy and the validity of those stats, because students have a hard time believing that, especially if you're in a peer group where everybody uses, it looks as though 100% of the kids use. But we had to kind of dispel those myths, and it was consistent for about 15 years, about in the mid to high 70s percentage in terms of kids not using. And they were surveyed early fall. Was it every other year we did the survey? Yeah.
I would say too, for our high school, one of the thing, our main goal is to provide prevention programming that's fun and that's relatable and that's not hitting you from the front, just saying, don't do drugs, don't drink, you're gonna ruin your life. The scare tactics don't work, and we know that. So following prevention research, we're having fun. We're coming at it from the angle of positive peer connections.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah, take care of yourself, being involved in school activities in the community, being involved in your church. Those types of things are going to automatically prevent you from making poor choices, which is going to just overall improve your mental well-being. So that's the approach that we take. And Voices in Prevention, I think, as these guys have shared, is just a really fun way of doing that. And we're trying to pay it forward for the younger incoming, the 8th graders and the 5th graders, and just encouraging them to start doing that at a young age.
And I think it's also cool that since like the elementary and middle schoolers see like high schoolers kind of preaching this message, I think it kind of breaks down those like stigmas surrounding high school and how like everyone's drinking, everyone's partying, everyone's, vaping in the bathroom. Like it kind of breaks down those stigmas a little bit and like pushes out the message that like you don't need to do that and that you shouldn't be doing that. And they see that like from high schoolers, and like high schoolers are saying that, not just adults. Because I know Miss Dillon was saying like the scare tactics don't work, and I think that's kind of translated a lot when adults are saying those things to students, like they don't believe them. But when it comes from like a fellow kid, I think that's when they really understand, and I think that's also like a really cool thing that our club can show to like the younger students.
And a lot of those same kids want to be a part of VIP.
Exactly,
When
yeah.
we do the interviews, like I remember seeing you when I was in 5th grade or 8th
Mhm.
grade, and I wanted to be, part of that.
Yeah, I know that was my case. Yeah, I like
Same here.
Nice.
came here. I wanted to be in the club because I remember like the high schoolers coming to our school. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Love that.
that's really cool.
So I know a little bit, like when we started this part of the conversation, you guys just addressed the fact that like some students don't necessarily like believe some of those statistics that come up, that it's like, oh, it's like too good to be true or whatever the
Right.
case may be. So how do you guys work to like combat that? Because I know that's not just a problem in your school, and it's a problem in a lot of different communities that people just don't want to believe what they see.
Mhm.
Yeah, I talk about that quite a bit with students, and I talk about kind of the way we get our information. Primarily, I make the contrast of the news. Speaking that the news is the news because it's the exception, not the norm. And so while you might, hear the news of Chicago, there might be, so many crimes that day. It might make Chicago sound like it's an infested crime pit. When in fact there's, 5 to 6 million people that just went about their day and nothing traumatic happened to them. So that's the majority of what happened. But we hear about the exceptions, and the same is true when people go out on the weekends and they might, get drunk or get really stoned. They come back and they will share the news. It's exciting, and it makes it seem like it's bigger than what it is. So that's kind of one piece. The other piece is people say that on the social norms campaign survey that people lie. And if everybody lied and said nobody used, our stats would look like 100%. When in fact, 25% of the people admitted that they used and there was no repercussions from them. It is not a we're going to catch you survey. It is just looking for honest information. And that 75% or so was consistent, give or take, over the 15-year period. It never seemed to deviate from that number very much. Um, and I thought that was pretty strong evidence. Like, yeah, I guess you can believe these numbers.
Thank you. That really helps us like better understand like the steps that you guys take. And I know that definitely is like a big recurring issue in a lot of different groups and throughout the community. Just kind of a question to like the adults that have probably been a little bit involved a little longer than obviously high schoolers that have been here for only like 3, 4, however many years they may be. How exactly have you seen like the attitude towards like the activities that you do change, or like how exactly have you guys seen like overall through the past couple years, or however long it may be that you have been involved, how do you think that people have been responding better to some of the stuff that you do?
That's hard to say what it's directly attributable to, right? So if we see the numbers go up or down, it's hard to know whether it's, something, you know, in the news, or it's something that we did, or some part of another campaign that they're witness to. I guess kind of like what we said before, I've seen students come up here really want to be a part of VIP. And it just kind of speaks to students wanting to do well, wanting to take care of themselves, wanting to kind of challenge themselves and kind of stay off of the I'm going to use drugs and I'm going to get drug path, right? So yeah, I don't know. We can probably make a correlation argument, but I don't know about a causation argument.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Once again, that is about all that I had to ask, and you guys did a really great job of like answering all the questions and really in depth, which we really appreciate, especially for the podcast, so people who are listening get a better understanding of what you guys do and what that looks like. If you guys have any social medias that you'd like to let our listeners know to follow.
We have an Instagram, VHHSVIP is our Instagram. And we'll kind of do weekly, monthly posts. Yeah.
The other one that's more general for prevention and wellness, I don't mean to toot my own horn, is Dillon, DILLON _ VHHS. That's just more like general prevention and wellness programming. And obviously,
Yeah.
VIP is more specific to voices in prevention.
Yeah.
That is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and make sure to follow us on Instagram for more updates at catalyst_SHS or